Dang thing's empty. I wanted to do a short today, but for some reason on my tablet I can't do a short. Now, I've heard Billy Ray and there's some other young lady, I can't remember her name, was pretty accurate about men on here. But there's one thing that I think is escaping slightly. I thought it was just me over the past 60 years, but as I was coming to find out, it's most men. A majority of men, especially men that work hard, testosterone type. Not work out hard necessarily, but hard-working guys. You come home from a long day of work and the wife says, well, I'd like to do this, 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 and this. And you're like, okay, that's great. Well, I'd like to get it done by such and such a time. Now, one of two things. Either it happens that you can't finish it, you're injured, something else happens, it doesn't happen in her time frame. The nagging begins, correct? And you just lost interest. Why? You came home from a boss. Now you got another one who's your wife that's supposed to be your partner is acting like your boss. I want this done. You know what every man does? Stops. Just stops. He's lost interest. Well, that's not... No, you just lost. Stop. Another one. The guy starts into a project. Well, that's not exactly the way I wanted it. Well, it doesn't matter how you wanted it. This is the only way I can build it. We had this discussion. Yeah, but I told you in the discussion that's not how I wanted it. I told you in the discussion. I am the expert on this. It can't work that way. I can't get you that outcome, especially going this way. Now, it's usually one of two things. It's either how it's done or the final result. But quite often, more often than not, there's an argument between the two. The women want it done this way, but they want it done in a particular manner. Well, I'm sorry, ladies, you're not our boss anymore. Stop. Okay? Now, a man can sit here at the table, and a lot of men just give up and nod their head. And there are two types of guys. One of them that just crashes right on through it and comes to the end, and he takes the crap. Then that's probably a quarter of us. The rest of us will just walk away. Now you say, I'm going to get mad and hire somebody. Now you dug yourself in deeper, and you just sent your man down the avenue another step. What do you mean? You argued with him. You came up with an idea, didn't discuss it with him. Then he started working with a project and couldn't fulfill your idea of either how it would be done, which is most often the argument. What are you doing? I'm doing what it needs to get to where you want. I don't want it done that way. Well, then you lose. You fail. Guy gets up and walks away. Or he crashes on a few guys and goes right to the end the way he wants to build it. Either way, 9 times out of 10, that's a minimum statement, the woman is angry. My man won't do what I want. She'll go home complaining to her mommy or her sisters or somebody else like a stupid little Karen pansy. My man won't do what I want. That's right, he won't. And he'll refuse. Every situation I've seen like this for the past, well, I've been married twice now. So I've got since 1980. So how many years is that? I got 43 years in this. And the same feeling I get now if there's a problem with it is two things. One of them is men do need little reminders. The other one is, are you willing to think it over to follow his pattern of certain things done around the house? Most often the man is the muscle mechanical expert, carpenter expert on all of this. You're not. He knows what you want. He knows what his capabilities are. And maybe he even knows in the end result he can't get you what you want. And in the beginning, if you have the discussion in the beginning, that, well, if you don't think you can do it, would you mind if we hired a contractor? Now you got a 50-50 shot there of, woohoo, I'm free. Or you got another one, yeah, but if I'm going to learn, I'd really like to try. Now you have two problems. If he would really like to try, let him. When he gets to a certain point, yeah, maybe you've wasted some money and time. And he might say, well, I can't. And he's going to take longer than you want either way. So shut up. That's right, I did say it. Just shut up and leave it alone. You're frustrated. Get over it. He's going to get to a point where this just isn't working right. It's not in my wheelhouse. I can't get it done there. And you have a choice at that point. Encourage him. Well, no, it may not turn out right, but you know what? So far, you got the right idea. And if I have to hire a contractor to make the thing, now what? Or to do the job, or to whatever. Then we have to start from here and pay him because he's going to start all over. Why don't you just finish it? We'll see what you come up with. You know what happens then? An amazing thing will happen. It'll shock you 3/4 of the time. Not all the time. But a good man will sit back and say, yeah, well, what do you want to change from here? Why? Well, he got to a stall point. Maybe he thinks that a woman that works with him is his partner and his friend and may have an idea. Why? Because she gave him a shot. The woman that makes demands is worthless. Go home. Don't get married. Shut your mouth. You're a diva. Okay? Just go away. I want this done, but I want it done this way. And I'd like this outcome. And 9 times out of 10, it can't happen. It can't. Men have the thing that I call spatial, 2 words, spatial acuity, spatial continuity. It sounds funky, but they're 2 different things. Spatial acuity. You come in and say you want X, Y, and Z, and I'd like to fit it in here. He immediately says, no. Now we're talking 9.9 times out of 10. He looks at it and says, no. Well, no, wait a minute. Why can't... No. But no. But no. It won't work. Well, why not? Well, you lost. He's done. Well, he won't explain. You're done. You're a diva. You're nasty. Shut up. And he sits there and says, no. And you say, okay, what do we need to cut out? Can we draw a picture of it so I can see it? Men are visual. Just get over that fact. You may be dreamers with the idea. We're visuals that look at things and make them work. There's some of us, and I don't do it that often because I can't anymore. My reference for picking up a wrench on a nut has had to change over the last 2 years, 3 years. Completely. Vastly, completely. Why? I started out in farm equipment. We were working with 7/16, occasional 1/2 inch, 9/16, jumped to 3/4 with almost nothing in between. Then we jump from there and go to 15/16 every time. And then when we got to the larger, heavier equipment stuff, 1 1/8 would pop in there. That was it. In rare circumstances, we'd pop into 1 1/4 inch, 5/16. But rare. Most often that was a wrench on a hydraulic. That was our line. Now, well, then shortly after, I had to switch to metrics. But tiny metrics. Then I got into large metrics. Then I got into huge metrics. 40 millimeters, 50, 52s, 54s, up in there. Yeah. And sometimes stuff that was pipe wrench and crescent wrench size. And when I was working at Komatsu, I knew the sizes. Well, now I have to come down to a different frame of reference. And that's what I'm talking about with some of you ladies. We have that frame of reference that we work with, and we have to sit there and think about it and visually go into a room with what you want done, or outside, or with a project you want to build a table. In every single case that Debbie comes up with an idea, the idea is probably pretty good, but it can't be built the way she wants. And in several circumstances, she turned around and said, you know what? What you were saying and what you were thinking, I don't think we need to build it at all. And I said, well, why? I could do the X, Y. She says, yeah, you could, but A, it's out here in the weather, and B, it's probably going to get broken because I play with the dogs up here. So even if you build it, it's going to get wrecked. And she said, no, forget it. Okay. A little while later, we decided we could try to do something else. She said, that would be great. But then we'd need to build this, that, and something else. I'd take her idea another step further. You know where it ended up? It ended up that now we're going to put a closet on it. And this is talking starting from a little bitty shelf that I wanted, a folding shelf I could build for her outside. Right? That she could sit down there and pop it up and read a book. Put her book on it, or coffee, or wine, or whatever she had. But in that area, the dogs would go jumping around. I said, well, let me cut the posts off. She says, no, leave them there. She says, I lean on them once in a while. Well, why don't I put a seat on them? Because we'll break it. Okay. And as it turns out, the deck that I built, huge deck, I think 12 years ago or so, it's going to get torn down. An old deck that her brother built is going to get torn down. A closet's going to be put up. And then a new deck put up, smaller, with a bigger cover. And she wanted it much, much, much bigger. And then I'm looking at the builder and we're talking, and then we start explaining and getting the size and the spatial distances and such. And she says, oh, okay, well, that's different. And we're able to change and work it around to where it's going to end up similar to what she wants. But in the end result, we're actually going to stand there, all three of us, and when we start building this, because I'll end up helping him, he's the building expert, and I'm the mechanical, and the idea guy sometimes. And Debbie will have the starting idea, I'll have the in-between mechanical idea, and then the builder guy is the one that says, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, no. And what can and can't be done by the local zoning and such. And in some cases, like, that'd be a great idea, no. Why? And then he'll explain why. Then I can explain to Debbie. You see, you're mansplaining. Yes. She womansplained what she wants. Then we mansplain what's possible. And in between, partners and friends come up with the idea. But you ladies that want to play diva, he doesn't do it right, he doesn't do it. You're a waste of time. Never get married, ever. Unless you change your head and get out of your demanding, diva, nasty, know-it-all state, because you're worthless to me and every other man. Debbie has those tendencies still now and then, and I've got those tendencies of shutting down and walking away too quick because I had 40 years of it at home. I watched my father not just do it, needed to do it. In fact, some cases do it so much he got in the car and would leave. We wouldn't see him for hours just to get away from her. Then he'd come back home and she'd scream, run out, look at the gas gauge and start screaming at him for wasting fuel. So we know what diva is. And you say, well, yeah, but no, that's not skewed anymore. That's a lot of the population of women. You say men have, yeah, we got our problems. After we've been abused like that, we turn around and just, that's it. We don't want to have a discussion, nothing else, it's over. Don't get to that point. You feel yourself just, he doesn't understand what I want. No, he doesn't. He's never, this is a marriage fact, a man will never inherently understand what you want. Ever. Unless two things happen. One of them is you talk to him like you're trying to get him to understand, not like a little baby, but you're talking to him like an adult, like, well, can we do such and such, or would you like, and start asking questions, or, hey, I'd like to put a table over here, maybe a folding table on the wall, or something else, I'd like an outlet here. We have that one all the time. I'm not an electrician, and I can't find the stuff. That's my problem, is trying to come up with the stuff. I can spend weeks finding the stuff that I want to put together where an electrician guy knows exactly where it is. Could run down to the store, or he's got it in his arsenal. That kind of thing. But we sit down and talk about it anyway. And in one case, she wasn't here. I went and was able to do the job on my own. It's working. So there's small things that you can talk to your man about, that even a man that has no basic skills will take a stab at it for a woman that wants to sit down, talk with him, draw the pictures out, show him where it is. Why? Because one of the things you young women have no clue about that my generation lost towards the end, we didn't see it at home, was the woman that didn't make demands, was the woman that sat down at the table with the husband and had an idea and thought it was the greatest idea on the planet and wasn't afraid for him to put the brakes on some of that idea. Because in the end result, she might actually get something close to what she wanted in the range of possibility. And she acted like a partner with her husband. I'd like to redo the kitchen, but here's what I'd like. I sit down together and draw a picture, work together like best friends, work together beyond best friends as partners, work together as if you each are the most important person in your life. Silly little things like that people end up arguing about all the time are the exact things that grow the marriage when you work together as if you're more important. That other person is more important than the best friend that you had outside the marriage. When you get to that point, he knows it. When you know it changes the entire marriage completely. Been through it twice. I had the nasty Graham, and I got Debbie that we can actually sit down most of the time and work through some stuff. I want this. Oh my. And it's, what? Well, dear. Usually I end up pulling her ideas back. I told her hundreds of times, it's not a bad idea. It's just not necessarily a possible idea. Now let's look at what is possible. There's quite a few ideas she had that they're okay, but are they involved? And what is involved in doing it? I can get her more than halfway there to this is what it's going to take in general. The specifics, no, but in general, yeah, you're talking time, you're talking ripping this out, putting that in, or drilling hole, whatever. And then we have an idea when we get done how it can work. There are times that she tries to overstep me and it's not good. But she was independent for 42 years. Well, 41. And believe it or not, 20 some years later, we're still working through that. One of the things that surprised her more than anything else, and I think is a little bit of a shock now sometimes, there's a lot of people around us that are dying off, and it's a little scary now and then. If you don't have faith in the Lord and His work in our lives especially, we have to maintain that and think about it every day. Because we're at the point now where we're depending on each other more and more. But we're aging more and more too. So our communication is even more important than it is at the beginning. What I'm trying to tell you when you're trying to work out the simplest things, where maybe the baby's born and you're talking to the husband about, can you wash these diapers for me, please? And if you take the time to wash it, I'll show you how I want it done. Because it's my washer, but I need your help. Well, you will have won most men over on that spot if you have been a decent wife to that, just a decent wife to that point. If you've been his best friend to that point, like you promised to be when you're married, most men will, 90% of men will be on board. You only find those 10% of, oh man, I was going to go fishing today and you're taking me out of, just look at her and say, that child, it's half your genetics. I just need you to help her. Don't get into an arguing match with him and start throwing, and because he'll walk away. He won't get into the emotional stuff, even if that's what he's starting with. But you'd be better off looking him square in the face and say, I'm not doing this alone. I need your help today. But the other part is, don't do it all the time on that day. Don't sit there and put it off, and you need the help, and you know it on Tuesday, but you ask him on Friday that you need his help Saturday when he's going fishing after a hard week's work. No, you're losing. Those are some thoughts from an old man reaching down to communication with men and women that are important. No, I'm not an expert. Well, wait a minute. I guess after 40 some years, I am an expert. Experience translates.